Sincere greetings to everyone. I am Rajkumar, Assistant Professor of English from Pandit Nekiram Sharma Government College, Rohtak. In this video, I am going to talk about the causes of decline of Jacobean drama. Jacobean drama, that is the drama of the age of James I, was a decadent form of the drama of Shakespeare and his contemporaries. The Elizabethan age was the golden age of English drama. But with the turn of the century, the drama in England also took a turn. It does not mean that there were no dramatists left. There certainly was a large number of them, but none of them could come anywhere near Shakespeare. Just as after Chaucer, poetry in England suffered a decline, similarly, after Shakespeare had given his best, drama also suffered a decline. With the passage of time, it grew more and more decadent. After the turn of 16th century and the passing away of Elizabeth, the theatre continued to command popularity, although the Puritan opposition was stifling. The playwrights attempted to fulfill the desire of the audience, but it lacked organic unity, which a supreme art must possess. In the Jacobean period, there was a steep decline in drama. The dramatists of the Jacobean age can be divided into two classes as follows. The old school of the dramatists, which includes Dekker, Heywood, Beaumont and Fletcher, and the satiric group, which includes Chapman, Johnson, Marston and Middleton. Now I am going to discuss the main causes of the decline of Jacobean drama. One of the reasons for the decadence of Jacobean drama was the loss of national spirit and patronage. In the age of Elizabeth, drama was truly national, and it was patronized alike by the queen, the nobles, the courtiers, and groundlings. But from the time of the accession of James I, the dramatist wholly depended on the royal favor. In this way, the theatre was cut off from common life and no longer remained a national institution, as it was in the time of Shakespeare. The dramatist cared less for men in the street and women in the kitchen. They delighted the court. While Beaumont and Fletcher were writing, the theatre was gradually losing its hold on the middle and lower classes. It marked the decline of drama. The drama of the age of James shows, unlike that of age of Elizabeth, a very marked foreign influence, for more ill than good. The older dramatists and audience had been satisfied with such intrigue as was afforded by the Italian short story. Their patriotism had sent them to Holinshed, who had rifled Geoffrey of Monmouth. But in the new age, foreign influences of increased potency made themselves felt. Drama borrowed the declamatory themes and exaggerated sentiments of Spanish drama and discovered new range of intrigue, crime, licentiousness in Italy and Italian subjects. Specifically, they revived the drama of revenge and driving it to the extreme, converted it into a drama of horror. In spite of the overall inferiority of Jacobean dramatists to Elizabethan dramatists, some credit must be given to them for their gift of plot construction. Jacobean dramatists show a greater skill in construction and development of their plot. Johnson, Middleton, and Fletcher were particularly endowed with the gift of plot construction, but what applies to the above-named dramatists does not apply to all Jacobean dramatists. Many of them, such as Dekker, are offenders in this respect. The lack of connection between the plot and subplot was one of the most marked vices of post-Shakespearean dramatists, and Dekker happens to offer the most absurd instance of it. There is unity in Dekker's better plays, but it is the unity of the novel rather than that of the drama. As we have already said, Jacobean drama was patronized mostly by the courtly classes, which were known for their lack of moral discipline. James I himself was a moralist without character. The same is true of most of the dramatists of his age. Some of them made fairly sincere attempts to preach morality, and none of them commended, or even condoned sin or vice. But that does not absolve them of the charge of showing almost morbid interest in sexual immorality, even though, for the purpose of condemning it, play after play was written on the theme of immoral love: The White Devil, A Woman Killed with Kindness, The Duchess of Malfi are all tragedies of illicit love. A King and No King is a tragedy of incestuous love. Later in the Caroline age, Ford produced his very shocking play, Tis Pity She is a Whore, in which he openly dealt with the incestuous passion of a brother and sister, which ends in disaster for both. Prostitutes appeared as heroines in many a play, such as Decker's The Honest Whore and Marston the Dark Courtesan. Abject Diogenes figured prominently in various plays. It was only Heywood and Webster who abstained from licentious themes. Heywood looked to the past and continued to assert the values of an earlier age in a new world in which they no longer had great meaning. As regards Webster, his plays are an agonized search for moral order in the uncertain and chaotic world of Jacobean skepticism. This skepticism led the Jacobean age to spiritual vacuity and despair. The courtiers, in particular, became voluptuous cynics, but this voluptuousness was not without the agonizing scene of melancholy arising chiefly from the prospect of human mortality without any Christian consolation regarding the future. Themes of death, time, mutability engage the attention of most writers, and the tragedies of the Jacobean period are exhibitive of a spin of negation and disillusion, repair and spiritual no confidence. Shakespearean tragedy does give rise to the feeling of pity and fear and even awe, but it does not create any pessimistic feeling. There are death and destruction, no doubt, but the human spirit rises phoenix like from the pyre with a new resplendent glory. But this kind of reassuring feeling is absent from Jacobean tragedy. All that happen in it is quite earthly, lacking the spiritual dimension of Hamlet and the cosmic dimension of Lear. The skepticism, gloom, despair, and pessimism of the age are reflected by the Jacobean tragedy. The English have always had a taste for crude and melodramatic sensationalism, generally of the kind of physical violence and bloodshed. Even Elizabethan dramatists, including Shakespeare, could not do without catering to the popular taste by introducing into their tragedies a large number of murders and scenes of violence. They might have been partly influenced by the tradition of Senecan revenge tragedy, but the popular taste for blood and thunder was also a dictating factor. Considered from the point of view of the story alone, such plays as Marlowe's The Jew of Malta, Shakespeare's Hamlet, and Keats' The Spanish Tragedy are all melodramas, but their melodramatic nature does not force itself on the eye or the ear, thanks to the rare poetic power which sustains them in higher region. But the same is not true of the Jacobean melodramatic tragedies. With the departure or the decay of poetic power, they have not much left to recommend themselves to us. Most of the tragedies of the age only succeed in covering the stage in the last act with a virtual rivulet of blood, so revolting to the refined eyes. On the other side of the scale to this artless and unthinking bloodshed was the Jacobean tendency towards sentimentalism. There is apparent in of the audience of the 17th century an increasing love of pathos and of what may be called sentimentalism. The pathos sought to be created by Jacobean dramatists is generally of artificial kind, but some plays, such as Heywood's A Woman Killed with Kindness contain some really pathetic scenes. The death scene of the Duchess in the Webster's The Duchess of Malfi is, is one of the superb example of pathos in the whole range of English literature. But such scenes are more of the nature of an exception than a rule. The pathos of Lear's or Cordelia's or Edward II's death is seldom captured by a Jacobean dramatist. The dramatists employ every means, illegitimate as well as legitimate, to satire the emotions of the spectators, to present before them something of novelty. The Jacobean age brought into vogue a new kind of realistic and satiric comedy aimed at the exposure of the London life and manners and the vices of the times. The exposure was effected for the purpose of correction through satire. We find comedy writers like Ben Jonson and Marston holding the mirror to their age. Their plays are quite realistic with real London as their background. They do not transport us to the fairyland atmosphere of the romantic comedies such as You Like It or A Midsummer Night's Dream. Marston and Ben Jonson were engaged in what is known as the War of Theatre and wrote stinging satires against each other. The humor of the Jacobean comedy was no longer the genial, fresh, and of Shakespeare's comedies, but was the bitter and satirical humor which always arises from didactic aims. Jacobean drama suffered decadence in the all-important field of characterization. It could not boast of character of stature and psychological complexity of Shakespeare's Lear or Hamlet or even Marlowe's Dr. Faustus. Jacobean dramatists relied for dramatic effect more on the situation than on the character. In the field of comedy, the Jacobean age presents conventional and wooden type, as for instance Ben Jonson's humors. In the field of tragedy, we have again some highly conventional and recurring characters, such as the headstrong monarchs, the lustful tyrant, a predetermined hero, often a husband, and with him the inevitable heroine, either sinning or sinned against. Then there is the faithful friend of the hero. Again, there are sudden and wholly unpsychological revolution of character which mar the majority of these dramas, and we realize that there could be no possible delving into the depth of personality such as we find in Shakespeare. Poetically, Jacobean drama is much less rich than Elizabethan drama. The passionate lyricism of Shakespeare and the grandeur of Marlowe's mighty line became things of the past. Theatrical devices took the place of true poetry. In Ben Jonson's tragedies, Catiline and Sejanus, there is more of oratory than poetry. Playwrights such as Dekker, Heywood, and Turner handled blank verse quite loosely, nor could they breathe into it that pulsating life and poetic beauty which constitute an overwhelming proportion of the pleasure we derive from the Elizabethan drama. The Puritan opposition to the drama is also responsible for the decline of drama during this age. Ever since the drama became popular in England, the Puritans waged a war against it. They regarded drama and all forms of entertainment as the devil's work to be avoided by men and women. To sum up, it can be said that after the death of Shakespeare, the drama became to show signs of decline in morals, plot construction, characterization, and technique.